Hello there, very good evening to you and welcome to Prime Time News, coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst newsroom here in Colombo.
Let's start off with a look at the headlines.
Indian Premier commends consensual government. 4 MOUs signed between Sri Lanka and India. OHCHR report on Sri Lanka to be presented to UNHRC tomorrow. UN welcomes Sri Lankan government's current attitude. A Newsfirst exclusive with the spokesperson for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights.
In the past, it was people were basically threatened if they cooperated with the investigation. The attitude of the Sri Lankan government towards my office, towards the UN Human Rights Office, has changed considerably.
Minister Mahinda Amaravira says he will not let Treasury bond issue be swept under the carpet. State Minister Lakshman Yapabewardena comments on economic goals. Seya Sadewmi laid to rest.
Prime Minister's visit to India.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is on an official visit to India, called on Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi today.
The bilateral meeting began at 11:30 a.m. local time and lasted for nearly half an hour. Subsequent to the meeting, 4 bilateral agreements were exchanged between India and Sri Lanka. The first agreement was on orbit frequency coordination of satellite for SARC region proposed at 48 degrees. The second agreement was on the provision of medical equipment to 200-bed ward complex at the Vavuniya District General Hospital. The third agreement was an Indian grant assistance for implementation of small development projects through local bodies, non-governmental organizations, charitable trusts and education and vocational institutions. And the fourth was on grant assistance from India towards setting up of an operation of emergency ambulance service in Sri Lanka. Subsequently, both the Indian and Sri Lankan Prime Ministers addressed the media.
Sri Lanka has voted twice this year for change, reforms, reconciliation and progress. There can be no stronger statement of Sri Lanka's democratic tradition. There can be no clear sign of Sri Lanka's march towards a peaceful, inclusive and prosperous future. The leadership has shown remarkable political unity at a time of great hope. I am confident that with the wisdom and will of the leadership in Sri Lanka and the support of the people, Sri Lanka will achieve genuine reconciliation and development so that all Sri Lankans, including the Sri Lankan Tamil community, can live a life of equality, justice, peace and dignity in a united Sri Lanka. Prime Minister and I had excellent discussion today. We welcome some significant developments in bilateral relations since March, including the currency swap arrangement. We also express hope that progress on key bilateral initiatives and projects will gather speed now. We both want deeper economic engagement. We would like to see our trade grow and become more balanced for Sri Lanka. We recognize our closely aligned security interests and the need to remain sensitive to each other's concerns. Prime Minister and I also discussed the fishermen issue. We agreed that fishermen's associations on both sides should continue their efforts to find a solution.
This new parliament in Sri Lanka is unique and historic. We have a government formed by the 2 leading parties in Sri Lanka who has so far contended for power, at least from 1956 onwards. We are together for 2 years to see how we can work out a policy framework, an agreement on unity and reconciliation. We are looking at how power sharing and devolution takes place. within the constitution, within a unitary state, and there's still scope for much more to be done. Peace and stability in the region is the key to our success. Whenever there's stability in the Indian Ocean, India and Sri Lanka prosper. And when there's instability, we get affected.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met his Sri Lankan counterpart Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is on a two-day official visit under closed doors today at the Hyderabad House. 4 bilateral agreements were signed between both countries, that is India and Sri Lanka. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, before his departure tomorrow from New Delhi, India, would meet Indian President Pranab Mukherjee. Early in the day, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and his delegation, comprising of Minister of Foreign Affairs Mangala Samaraveera and Minister of International Trade Malik Samaravikrama, met with Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj. Shamir Rasuldeen for News First from New Delhi, India.
During his Indian visit, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe also met several other key Indian political figures. Indian Congress Party President Sonia Gandhi and Congress Party Vice President Rahul Gandhi called on Prime Minister Wickremesinghe this evening. Former Indian Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh also met with the Premier.
Meanwhile, News First Shamir Rasuldeen, who is in India, caught up with former Indian Foreign Ministry spokesperson in New Delhi today.
Ambassador Singh, starting off, how significant is Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe's visit to India?
You see, as we see it, it's a two-stage change. There was the presidential contest, and now there's been the prime ministerial position. It was important to see how it pans out, because as you know, it could have been possible for there have to be a different ending to this. So were we going to get the old order in a new shape? Were we going to get a kind of Medvedev-Putin kind of arrangement? Or this was really change? So this looks like change.
What is the future of Indo-Sri Lanka relations?
We have a free trade agreement. The future has to be determined by Sri Lanka. I think Sri Lankan economy is a recovering economy. It's gone through a very difficult and long period of internal disturbance, civil war-like conditions, which scares away, because your strength is not just commodity exports. Your strength is as a center for tourism, as a transshipment point, as a place where there can be a fulcrum for trade and commerce in the area, because the Indian Ocean, you are lying at a very crucial spot. And that's all. 1/3 of the world's containers flow through the Indian Ocean. 3/4 of the oil out of the Gulf is carried this way. So therefore Sri Lanka is in a very important trade route. Now how it wants to restructure itself would be exactly how other countries want to do it. You want both inbound trade as well as you want manufacturing capacity which generates jobs, because that would be the first challenge for any prime minister.
There are many problems that persist regarding Indo-Sri Lanka relations. In order to iron out these, what is the way forward?
I think the way forward, the Prime Minister's visit would really focus on economic, like we said, signing of the agreement, economic linkages, give a boost to that, let that drive the relationship, greater people-to-people exchanges. I think more people should visit Sri Lanka.
What can India offer in terms of help to improve the Sri Lankan economy?
No, I think, look, I think the time where it'll have to be, it's not so much government to government, because firstly, India is not a capital surplus country in that sense. But India has an assistance program, and to the extent those work government to government, they can look at it. But essentially, it'll have to be Indian private sector.
The investigation report mandated by the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights on Sri Lanka will be presented to the UN Human Rights Council tomorrow.
In his opening statement at the 30th UNHRC session yesterday, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Zaid Rad Al Hussein, speaking on Sri Lanka, stated that the findings in the investigation report on the conflict were of the most serious nature and welcomed the vision of President Maithripala Sirisena. Meanwhile, representing Sri Lanka at the UNHRC, Foreign Minister Mangala Samaraveera pointed out that Sri Lanka recognizes all communities as equals and commented on the adoption of a new constitution. The minister spoke of the establishment of a truth-seeking commission with a dual structure composed of religious dignitaries from all major religions in the country and a structure composed of commissioners. In addition, a judicial mechanism with a special council is to be set up by statute which takes into account the rights of victims.
Today we have a government in place which acknowledges the suffering of victims across Sri Lanka's communities. A government which recognizes the mistakes of the past and is all too aware of the weaknesses of our institutions, a government that does not seek to take cover by distorting concepts and principles such as sovereignty for its own selfish ends, but instead remains firmly committed to the welfare of all its citizens, remains open to dialogue and to address difficulties and deficiencies with help and assistance from the international community when required. Therefore, I say to the skeptics, don't judge us by the broken promises, experiences and U-turns of the past. Let us design, define and create our future by our hopes and aspirations and not be held back by the fears and prejudices of the past. Let us not be afraid to engage in meaningful dialogue aimed at finding solutions to problems as opposed to pointing fingers, heaping blames and scoring political points at the expense of future generations.
Former Sri Lankan diplomat Bandula Jayasekara commented on the points that drew the attention of the international community.
Foreign Minister Mangala Samaraweera, what he said, that he reached out to the international community and he said that give us time and space. But the same thing which Professor G.L. Piri said before, but his tone was different, the present foreign minister's tone was different. What was good is, normally in the past, it was a very aggressive response from the United Nations which always brought this resolution. But it was a very positive response which came from the United Nations. I think you could see a very positive change. And also, whereas the present government is working, has reached out and working with the United States. We need to engage. That is real diplomacy, which we need.
Senior Attorney at Law Gomin Dayasri, speaking on the Pathikada program this morning on Sirasa TV, stated that a positive outlook has been created.
We must protect not only our country, but also our army. Do not forget, we are living in a country that saved a large number of murderers and directed them towards democracy, where that very government was defeated by its people through an election. So we cannot forget the service rendered by the army. The weaknesses of the foreign ministry are many, especially during the last government and the defense ministry. If investigations were carried out in a transparent manner, there wouldn't have been all these issues. As a lawyer appearing for the army then, I challenge the investigations because I know we can fearlessly overcome it and triumph. We do not need divisive political parties. We need national political parties. We must create a country where we all live as brothers and sisters. Because of this relationship with India and America, we must methodically and effectively devise a mechanism through a domestic principled investigation within the country under the laws of the country, but according to natural justice principles and transparent.
With a report on the OHCHR investigation scheduled to be presented tomorrow, Newsfirst Shahin Jaram Pathi caught up exclusively with Ravina Samdasi, the spokesperson of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Zaid Rad Al Hussein.
Ms. Ravina, Sri Lankan Foreign Minister Mangala Samaraweera in his statement to the UNHRC yesterday said that the government of Sri Lanka is fully committed to achieve genuine reconciliation. But prior to his statement, the High Commissioner for Human Rights said that the report, which is scheduled to be tabled tomorrow, is of serious nature. Now, in this backdrop, how will this report impact Sri Lanka's reconciliation process and its efforts?
Well, we certainly hope it will have this report will have a positive impact on Sri Lanka's transitional justice and reconciliation efforts. And in fact, the High Commissioner has welcomed the vision and the commitment shown by the new government towards this end. As you said, the findings of the report are indeed of a very serious nature. We were mandated to investigate allegations of serious violations of human rights that had occurred, and the findings do reflect very serious results.
The High Commissioner also said that the Council owes it to Sri Lanka and to its own credibility to ensure an accountability process. Does this mean that the UN, its stance has shifted towards Sri Lanka?
I mean, the report will be published tomorrow, as you know. It will be published at 2 p.m. tomorrow, Colombo time, and all the findings will be made clear then. Basically, in the report, we have findings, we have fact findings, we have a legal analysis of the facts that we have uncovered, and then we have recommendations for the way forward. So the full range of the recommendations will be available tomorrow. Essentially, we just hope that this report will be seen in a very constructive fashion by the people and the government of Sri Lanka.
What should the Sri Lankans expect tomorrow?
you should expect a very comprehensive investigation into what happened in Sri Lanka, particularly between 2002 and 2011. So during the war, during the final stages of the war, and in the aftermath of the war. You should expect a very comprehensive investigation into that. You should expect a legal analysis on the basis of human rights law and humanitarian law of what kind of violations may have been committed by both sides of the conflict. And you should expect a set of recommendations which are very comprehensive and which are very constructive and which invite the Sri Lankan people and the government to study them very carefully. Well, we certainly welcome the engagement that the new government has shown with us. In the past it was people were basically threatened if they cooperated with the investigation. So, of course, the attitude of the Sri Lankan government towards my office, towards the UN Human Rights Office, has changed considerably, and we very much welcome that change, and we hope that this will lead to very long-term, constructive and productive engagement.
Meanwhile, views on Sri Lanka were expressed by other delegates at the 30th UNHRC session.
Japan intends to continue to support Sri Lanka's efforts for peace building and national reconciliation. Our hopes are high that Sri Lanka establish a reliable domestic mechanism involving a variety of national actors, which is at the same time satisfies the international standards.
And agree that it is in the government's interest to establish justice processes that have the confidence of the international community and will be credible to all the affected communities in Sri Lanka.
In Sri Lanka, we commend the newly elected government for beginning to address post-conflict accountability and reconciliation. I listened closely to Foreign Minister Samarawira's address to the session earlier today, and I am encouraged by Sri Lanka's willingness to engage with the international community as it seeks to deliver lasting peace. We hope and expect it will take forward the recommendations made in the High Commissioner's report and deliver the credible processes and mechanisms it has promised. The United Kingdom stands ready to help them in any way possible.
Still in local news, Minister of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Mahinda Amaraveera says that the central bank treasury bond issue will not be swept under the rug.
Allegations were levelled against Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran that he was involved in irregularities over issuing of treasury bonds in February 2015. A three-member committee of lawyers investigated the matter and presented a report to Parliament. However, nothing is known on whether the wrong was corrected or whether those responsible were punished.
A committee was appointed and a report was presented. Then the parliamentary committee acted on it. When the issue on the governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka arose, there were discussions that took place. During those discussions, I told him that he has a good name and on this context he needs to write in the face of society. I told him that the right thing was for the governor of the Central Bank to resign.
It appears that the President's request too had not been heeded. In addition, several other incidents that led to much controversy have not been resolved.
Central Bank bond issue unresolved. Issues surrounding the avant-garde security services unresolved. Case against Kampala Vidanage Samantakumar alias Velesuda unresolved. Case against Kumaran Padmanathan alias KP unresolved. Death of rugby player Wasim Tajuddin unresolved. Issues surrounding the outer circular highway unresolved. Pumping and dumping issue at the Colombo Stock Exchange unresolved. There's another group who are saying that the issue of the central bank governor was swept under the rug by appointing a new cabinet. That will not happen now. I have complained against the central bank governor to the Bribery Commission, some asking whether I have withdrawn the complaint. It has not been withdrawn and the investigations have been concluded. I will continue for sure. We know that there are issues pertaining to the Bribery Commission. Those were highlighted by the media in the past. But we state clearly that we will not let it be swept under the rug. Chamara Sampath Dasanayake was sworn in today as the new Chief Minister of the Uba Province before President Maithripala Sirisena. The The new chief minister was sworn in before the president this morning. Chamrasampha Dasanayake, who was elected to the provincial council in 2009, went on to become a provincial minister in 2014. Although he was elected to parliament this year, he decided to remain in the provincial council. Lakshman Seniviratne will take the seat in parliament from the national list left vacant by Dasanayake. Chamrasampha Dasanayake obtained 64,418 preferential votes at the general elections and came in second from the Badula district. Nimal Siripal, who was in the top of the district list, and Thenuku Vidhanagambage, who was third in the list, are already representing parliament. Thereby obtaining 42,354 votes, Lakshman Seniviratne would be the next in line to enter parliament. When inquired over the seat left vacant in parliament for the Badula district, Elections Commissioner Mahinda Deshapriya said that once the name is presented by the Badula district secretary, it would be casted.
State Minister of Finance Lakshmana Wardana assumed duties today.
President Maithripala Sirisena was also present for the event. We have an economic goal to achieve by 2020. By that time, this country needs to be developed from all aspects. Therefore, the revenue needs to be managed and the expenses need to be restricted. We need to engage in those policies. We hope to commit ourselves to make the President's aspirations a reality. Privatization needs to be a banned word. We need to develop and manage the domestic institutions more than the private institutions.
On a headline-making story, Seya Sademi was laid to rest today after stirring up a broad dialogue on a more strict regulation on child protection to be enforced.
Seya Sademi had to bid farewell to the world after she met with a tragic end days before her 5th birthday. Yesterday it was confirmed that she was molested and strangled to death. Although no arrests have been made as yet, police are carrying out investigations on a number of leads. Police have placed their suspicions on facts such as the girl's clothes lying on the bed, one of the 3 windows of the room not being secured and left open, and the main door of the house being left unattended. The house is located 200 meters away from the place where the lifeless body of little Seya was found. Suspicions have arisen that she could have been molested and murdered by someone who was familiar with the surroundings. She fell asleep at around 8:30 while watching TV. Then I placed her on the bed and put the net. I slept at around 10:45. My parents went out for a funeral and returned at around 10. My husband only returned after midnight. Then my daughter was not in her bed. We thought she was with the grandparents. She was there at that time. Someone must have come after 11:30. We slept at around 10:30. When my son came, it was after 12, and I was awakened by the sound of the closing door.
I came home after 12. When I came home, my daughter was not there. When I switched on the light, my wife got up. I asked her where her daughter was. She asked me the same, and then said she might be sleeping with the grandmother.
People who gathered at the funeral to pay their last respects to this little girl who met an untimely death are of the view that this incident should be investigated and that the time has come to take action to prevent such heinous crimes. During Seya's funeral, a woman who visited the house opened up on a similar situation that one of her relatives had to face.
ඌ අල්ලගත්තා වැරදි කාර්යයම කියලා ඌ අල්ලගත්ත අපිට අහුන්නේ පොලිසියට අහුනේ පොලිසියෙන් අරන් ගියා දැන් අවුරුදු 6ක් නෙවෙලා අවුරුදු 4කට කලින් ඌ එළියේ ඉන්නවා වරන් පිට ඌ අල්ලන්නෙත් නැහැ අපිට හොයන්න කියනවා අපි අපකාරව හොයන්නලු අපිට.
During the past, many such gruesome incidents came to light. One of those incidents was the gang rape of the school student Vidya in Jaffna. Subsequently, 3-year-old Chandrakumara Perusa was raped and killed in Kilinochchi.
We need to put an end to the gruesome killings of children. For that, we need to have a legal system in place. It is not sufficient to simply imprison those who commit these crimes. I believe that we need to have some sort of dictatorship to protect the children of this country. I believe that capital punishment must be imposed on those found guilty of crimes against children.
මගේ නම් විශ්වාසය ළමා අපචාරයට හසුණු පුද්ගලයෙකුට අනිවාර්යෙන්ම මරණීය දඬුවම ලබා දී යුතුයි කියන එකයි මගේ මතය. යම් ඒකාධිපතිත්වයක් යම් ආඥාදායකත්වයක් අද රටට අවශ්‍ය වෙලා තිබෙනවා දරු පරපුරේ සුරක්ෂා භාවය වෙනුවෙන්. අවශ්‍ය දැඩි තීන්දුව තීරණ ගැනීමට.
With the support of the President and the Prime Minister, we will hold discussions with the Ministry of Justice in order to take stern action. If the person who committed this crime is apprehended, he will not be pardoned. Steps will be taken to impose maximum punishment.
කටයුතු කරන්න අවශ්‍යයි කියන එක.
Another cultural centre that was constructed through the decentralised funds of former MP and General Secretary of the Citizens Front, J. Sri Ranga, was declared open today. The cultural centre was constructed at the premises of the Sri Siddhivinayagar Kovil in Kandapalli, Nuwara at a cost of 9 million rupees. Former MP J. Sri Ranga was commended by the estate community for providing them with a cultural centre. The building will facilitate weddings and cultural performances and will accommodate over 1,000 persons.
When you take a look at the Tirupati Kovil in India, it has a university, a medical centre and also provides free education. We have not seen such an environment in Nuwara. Now you can be happy. You do not need the permission of the state to use this cultural centre. I also hope to sponsor the weddings of 10 poor families. In sports news, the International Cricket Council announced that Roshan Mahanama will step down from the elite panel of ICC match referees at the end of the year. Roshan Mahanama joined the elite panel in 2004 so that he can spend more time with his family and also focus on the development of his business activities in Sri Lanka. Roshan Mahanama served almost 12 years as an International Cricket Council elite panel referee. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Cricket announced that former national cricketer Nuwan Soisa has been appointed to the national fast bowling coaching department. According to the announcement, Soisa will be joining SLC on a one-year contract beginning 1st of October 2015.
Well, before we wrap up, we leave you tonight with a video that has resurfaced on social media. Stephanie Lazarus.
I'm Joel Outspoon. Good night.